In this episode of Weaponized.
Hey man, I've been watching movies lately. I rewatched this movie called Nope. Have you ever heard about it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. What do you remember?
Giant, really strange object flying around in the sky.
Yeah. At one point it looked like a disc. I've never seen anything like it before. Congress better look at this.
This is Weaponized. I'm George Knapp, joined by my friend and colleague Jeremy Corbell. Jeremy, I notice it's snowing out here, kind of late in the year for snow, but we're pretty high up with the cabin here at altitude-wise, right?
That's right, the weaponized cabin, baby. The conspiracies. Hey man, I've been watching movies lately. I rewatched this movie called Nope. Have you ever heard about it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. What do you remember?
Giant, really strange object flying around in the sky.
Yeah. At one point it looked like a disc.
Yeah, it's true. It did look like a disc, a big one.
Yeah, let's get back to that. I'm a big fan of movies, but got like a serious question for you. What is our duty in journalism? We've seen a lot of things happen in journalism in the UFO world. You know, we have obtained and released a lot of footage. I know there was a Wall Street Journal article, but do we have a duty as journalists to report for public good if we know that it's not something that is damaging to America?
The mantra I learned in my formative years as a reporter was from my friend and colleague and role model Ned Day, the late Ned Day. And he always said the journalist's ethical imperative is to get the story, get it right, and tell it no matter who it helps or who it hurts. And that's always been sort of my guiding light. I think because of the UFO topic, I would modify the last part of it, tell it no matter who it helps or who it hurts. I'm not sure that is always true for us because as our viewers and listeners know, we often deal with really sensitive stuff that comes our way. And you and I have grappled with the issue of what to release, when to release it. And there's stuff that comes our way that we do not want to release because we realize it could hurt our country. And so we have to walk a line there. We want to be journalists. We want to share the information once we verify it with the public. But you don't want to do something that's going to hurt your country, right?
Yeah, and so we are often called recently like gatekeepers, like put everything out. Man, it takes us years to assess if something is damaging. No, everything we can put out, we will. But I don't feel like we're being gatekeeping by being careful. And damn, we are maybe sometimes over careful. But we have promised that we're going to do our best, to get as much information out. It's a global issue, UFOs. And, that's part of what I want to do today with you. We have decided that we're going to do our best, put our best foot forward. But before we get into that, I want to bring something specific up with you. I want to know, well, first of all, on that, the world is so wild right now with AI. I can't trust a UFO video if it doesn't have a chain of custody or multiple angles. For me, the best type of evidence is evidence that we've corroborated over years that is military filmed. I mean, that's like the golden egg as far as you can rely that this is actual UAP footage designated by the military. Unfortunately, we're in a world now where you could create something like the movie Nope and like all of a sudden it's like not real. So when it comes to our assessment over time and what you just said about being careful and putting stuff out, we also saw a Wall Street Journal article, and you took an interesting stance that I didn't really think about, which is that and I want you to explain it, but there was a guy who was primary author of that article, and you're like, look, he's just jumping in. Give the guy a little break. He has good sources. He trusted on them. Maybe he didn't know that he was reporting things that were verifiably false. Can you explain to me why you have so much grace for other reporters?
Well, that story came out, and UFO world is all abuzz and ready to storm, get pitchforks and torches and storm the Wall Street Journal. And I just thought, this is an opportunity to learn for both the UFO public and for the Wall Street Journal. That is a great newspaper. It really is. There are two reporters that worked on this story, and they're both really good. My point was, in conversations with you and with other people, look, these are national security reporters. They travel the halls of power every day. They interact with intelligence agencies. They deal with really complicated issues, psyops and cybercrime. They deal with the Pentagon. They have contacts. They develop sources over the years in that world that they learn to trust. And of course, they would trust them more because it's their daily job to interact with them than maybe with UFO world. And so they finally get to the point where they want to do a UFO story, and they go to people that seem credible to them. And it turns out Sean Kirkpatrick and Tim Phillips, who had these jobs at Arrow, who were real people, had jobs and were respected by folks in that community, start feeding them information. They're able to confirm a lot of it. And they're taking on this UFO topic, which, as we've talked about before, look, you can't just jump into it, in the deep end of the pool, and expect to know it in 6 weeks or 6 months or even 6 years. It's complicated. There are nuances here that are hard to learn. It's a very steep learning curve. So I've seen a lot of really good reporters like these two jump into the UFO topic and make judgments sort of in a short period of time based on the credibility of the people they deal with. And those judgments turn out to be wrong because there are subtleties to this. And there's so much misinformation from UFO people, things that are made up. They get challenges of AI and false images. A lot of bad information that's created in UFO world that we have to sit through all the time. And then there's bad information from officialdom, from these people at the CIA and the Pentagon that have twisted this issue for so long for their own purposes. Maybe some of them were noble to begin with, but I think they are covering up criminality. They've misled Congress. They've certainly misled major media like Wall Street Journal, like New York Times, like us, like everybody. They've lied for 75, 80 years. And so piercing the veil and figuring out what's true and what isn't is hard, and you can't do it quickly. So I would just caution our friends in UFO world for whom this is a very important topic to hold off. Don't burn down the Wall Street Journal just yet. And don't alienate these reporters to the point where they're so angry about being beaten up that they never take a fair and deep look at this topic again. Give them a chance. I mean, they're smart. They're good reporters. I think they probably feel a little bit burned now. They realize that some of the information they were given was not accurate, and they might become assets and allies for this topic. They might be mad enough, as we were when we started, and realized we were being lied to. That's what motivated me. I'm being lied to, and it pissed me off. They might react the same way. So before you lynch them, give them a chance to see what else they're going to do on this topic.
So you talked with the primary reporter before, during, and after the release. What's the guy's name?
Joel Sheckman.
Joel Sheckman. So, Joel Sheckman, you got bad information. Don't worry about it. You're going to get good information. Now listen to people that reach out to you, like people in the military who were there. But so you're saying give grace to that. We like this dude. We think that if he gets better and more information, then he'll realize that what he was told was complete fabricated nonsense lies by our Department of Defense's branch, the Arrow, specifically. Right?
Yeah, I think he was given information that was not complete lies, but it wasn't complete. It wasn't the whole picture. He got some stuff, EMP technology that was used that could disrupt a nuclear silo or something like that. And that's true. And he was given documentation. It just wasn't in existence at the time that the incidents happened.
Exactly. It wasn't in existence at the time. And then this idea that they rolled up a 60-foot platform with no of the guards seeing, and you got Robert Salas, who was there. You've got a bunch of other people that were there being like, that's ridiculous. So you got to listen to the public when you put something out and correct the record if you found it to be incomplete, is your word.
I'm guessing they're going to do it. I'm guessing that they're going. I mean, we've been told that they're going to do additional stories. That was always their plan. The second story at the time we're recording this has not come out yet, because I think they're probably reevaluating some of the sources they had and doing what good journalists do is take another crack at it. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I heard word on the wash that it was going to be a hit piece on individuals, the second article. And if that was the setup all along, I really appreciate the way you're looking at it, and I hope it's true, because what your premise is that you have good faith actors who are in major media that should be covering this and just got incomplete, you said, information, and some of it is absolutely fabricated.
Yeah, they've done some hard-hitting stories before. It's not always pro-government. They're not just accepting whatever the CIA or intel community or Department of Defense tell them. They've done some stories that were not popular in those circles, so maybe they'll do it again. I'm hoping that they give it a fair shake, and one way to make that happen is to not beat the hell out of them in between the first story and the second story.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase. November 23rd, 2020, there was a passive capture of a UAP by an Air Force asset. We are releasing 3 videos today. We've decided after multiple years of verifying and vetting that this footage, where it comes from, that our government filmed it, and it's one that the world has kind of heard about because a lot of people in the intelligence community has seen it. In fact, a federal agent said to me, when I corner people and, just to see over the years, is this footage you and I have been exposed to, is it real? And I cornered a few people that ran UFO programs. I cornered federal agents.
Have you seen something that looks like this? Just
and then
them.
they fill in the blank.
Right.
So we know and are confident putting this out that this is a military filmed UAP, and we're going to release 3 videos. But I think I want to explain that. Last night, we had a few friends come over, and hopefully we can play some clips of that, just to show them, is it worthy of putting out? Does it move the needle for you at all? Because I don't even know anymore, because it's thermal, right? So it's black and white footage, and you're never going to get the best footage. But this one struck me because of the shape, George. It's the iconic shape, and I didn't label it UAP, and I never called it a disc, but our military did.
We get a lot of images sent our way. Citizens, military people. Some of it is fake AI stuff. Some of it's video. Some of it's photos. Some of it's, there's no way. We're not image analysts, experts. We don't have any expertise in that. We have some familiarity with images and can explain some things just by looking at it, but we can't say, oh yeah, that's a legitimate UFO. So a lot of times the stuff that we put out on Weaponized, the best things that we can have is something that's vetted by the U.S. military or intelligence community, where they say it's a UAP. We don't make the designation; they do it.
And our agreement is that we always sit back, and if we end up as journalists obtaining and releasing stuff that we've confirmed it across the board, but also received it multiple times, and that's the key to knowing that something is worthy of reporting on. At least to begin the investigation, that it's worthy to report on, especially military film footage.
Yeah, and you always want to, of course, our golden rule is protect your source, even if they need to be protected from themselves. So you want to be careful. If there's one person who had access to something, and by making it public it's going to identify them, we have to hold off. We've been holding off on this particular thing for a long time. And I'm thinking back to the first time you share it with me, the comical scenario, the stealth techniques that we use to hide it from the rest of the world. Someday there will be an expose and we'll have that scene and recreate it, but I don't want to do it right now.
And I think what's important too is by design, we never solicit because that's illegal. But by design, we have catch-all places that kind of get passed into certain circles. So a lot of times I try to separate us from even knowing, compared to if we call, someone as a source, we talk with them. That's normal journalism. But something like this, we try to separate ourselves so we can't even.
No, we don't solicit it. We don't want to know in some cases because we don't want to get somebody in trouble, and we don't want us to get in trouble. We don't want to cross the line.
Right.
So we try to be really careful about that.
But once you've obtained something that is of critical value to the public, it is our duty to report on it, and that's why we've chosen to do this one. So what I want to do is just go into the facts and make sure that we talk about it just from like what we're seeing. So let's just start playing it so our audience can see it. So if you're an audio listener, you should definitely go online if you haven't seen it already and look through it. But we're doing 3 videos, and it's really important that each one is explained because it's all at the same event. But let's just talk about what the facts are. So I gave the date.
The date is November
23rd, 2020.
Right.
And it was actually, it doesn't matter the time. Everybody can kind of see if you take apart the green graphics of the location and time. I'm not getting into that.
There's a lot of information that's going to be on the screen, and all those detectives out there in Weaponized world can go ahead and run it down for themselves.
That's right.
The following is video number 1.
So it's kind of like, what do we see happening? So the first video is a wide with all the green writing. And that is obviously, it's a cloud cover formation. you can't see anything really happen in that. What we will try with Weaponized, we'll try to visually enhance the videos. Because look, obviously there's some glare on the top. It must have been filmed on a screen with a light source around. I mean, this is not like the raw video. I hope the government now puts this one out, as always. Yeah. And we will make sure our government knows that they can do that, that this is going public. But we don't have raw footage because the nature of how things are obviously sent to us. But the first video, I was looking at it, and if you look up at the very top by this green little demarcation point, you can just barely see on this huge screen, you can barely see something drop down from my angle of vision to my left and then make an abrupt turn. And it happens to be designated UAP by our military, described by our military, by our DoD as a saucer. And damn, if it's not freaking a perfect circle.
Let's set the stage a little bit more. So this is a platform way up there that's looking down on some clouds, and it spots something moving around that is unusual from way up there, right?
It wasn't seeking like an active capture. It just happened to come in, and this is why I think it was alerted all throughout the intelligence community that there's a famous video, that people have all seen this, because if you have access to very specific, I guess, areas within our government, a lot of people that we know have seen it.
Yes.
And so the thing drops down and moves, and I'm like, I can barely see anything. Boom, I open the next video, and they had punched in, and you can see this smooth movement of what looks like a disc, and it drops down. It appears to go inside of a cloud cover, and then during that, it changes direction abruptly, and starts moving, and then goes into another cloud area.
The following is video number 2.
Now, officially, it says UAP using clouds for concealment, which is a funny way to say it. I don't know, right? But that's what they have reported internally in the government. Did it change direction because it was being seen? Did it use the clouds as concealment? Or was it just some like saucer thing?
That's what it does up there.
Yeah, I don't
From
know.
Nope.
Okay, and there's a third piece of footage, and I really didn't want to put this one out because it has some issues. So it was sharpened, zoomed, motion tracked, contrast enhanced, and slowed to 60% speed by our own military. So when I end up seeing this enhanced version, because obviously they have a really good version of this footage, it had a glitch. And it looks like when it goes into the cloud cover, all of a sudden it's popped out. But the original footage, you see it's smooth. And how I know it glitched is because the little green icon at the top jumps. So the UAP doesn't make that movement as you're seeing. It was...
We did not do it.
No. When we received that, and you also see a white ring around it, but that's because they did all the things I just said. So they're analyzing it there. They're analyzing, hopefully for people we know, they're analyzing this. So, but this third piece we're going to put out anyway, because you can really see the shape because of the horrible, horrible job they did at enhancement with a glitch. But I just want people to understand it's a smooth motion, and look at the original footage for that. But I think we can do a semi-better quality enhancement, and we're going to try to do that. It's AI, so it might fill in a little bit. So that's not the video, but it's just a way to better demonstrate without a glitch. But again, I'm not working off of source material. This is just, being knucklehead trying to do this with my pal.
The following is video number 3.
We wanted to show it to two friends of ours who we trust to get their reaction. They had never seen it before, just to see how they would react. And we did that. Dave Foley, good friend of ours. We knew we could show it to him. He's not going to run and put it on X or something like that.
And Grant, who's a great journalist who has a sharp eye, and we just wanted to know what they thought about it. We should play that.
Yeah.
Look at the shape. See the change of direction?
Yeah.
Because it gets even better.
And that's very disc shaped. Yeah. Wow.
So what we see in the footage, as just from my perspective, what we see is a thermal imagery. So it's better, like a cell phone would never have gotten this. So, it's not low quality, but I mean, it has a ton of data. It's thermal data. And what we see is the shape of the signature. But what I don't see is any plumes of propulsion moving this disc-shaped object. And look, you said before,
There's a little distortion behind it in the blown up video, right?
So
I think that's affectation or something like that.
There's two types of distortion. So like when they did their really crappy enhancement, I saw that there was like a digital ghost movement a little bit, just like with the Baghdad Phantom. It could be the frame rates, it could be anything. But what is not a digital artifact is, if you really look at it, you can see that the clouds appear to be disturbed by the movement of the physical object. But the big thing for me is not that. The big thing for me is you do not see plumes of heat coming off of the object that is oddly shaped, not aerodynamic.
This is a thermal sensor. If there was heat, it should see it.
Oh yeah, of course it would.
Yeah.
And you had two comments I thought were really interesting. You're like, well, could be a sphere, Jeremy, maybe not a disc. Well, they said disc, not me. But I think you're right. How do you know?
Yeah, how would you know? Looking down on it, it looks round from that angle of observation. But maybe the whole thing is round.
Our government said disc.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, but I don't know. And they also had multiple sensor captures of this. I happen to know. I've never seen
Other
it.
angles, you think?
I don't know. I've never seen it, but I have high confidence that is true, that it's multiple sourcing.
That would be how they would determine it's a disc then.
So the propulsion aspect is interesting to me. So that's what I'm not seeing. So what I'm seeing, if I just like face value, it's what people say. I'm seeing a saucer moving through the clouds in a thermal signature, and I'm not seeing any heat plumes of propulsion. It's pretty crazy.
The other thing that's really interesting, a fact that is in some material that we received, is how big this thing is.
Right. No, the world has received it. Check this out. Let me explain this so clear.
Yeah.
We would never put a source on camera. So everybody's thoughts of how we obtain and release stuff is ridiculous. And I love that. And I want it to continue to be ridiculous to people. Create any conspiracy theory you want. But here's something that people didn't know. On congressional record, you now know it was Matthew Brown that wrote the Immaculate Constellation. One of the reasons I knew to at least trust him enough to take him into congressional offices, is because when I saw what he wrote, I didn't tell him. You and I had been exposed to a number of those videos that he describes, like, moving in the clouds kind of thing. And in that document, he wrote 200 to 400 meters is the size. Now check this out. I don't know, but the nerds, they're going to take a look. All you UFO nerds, take a look at the green, numbers. Maybe they can determine actual size. I am so curious what the size actually is on it.
Yes. I'm sure that there are some detectives out there who can help us figure this out. I'd like to know where this was recorded, over what theater of operation, and hopefully UFO detectives out there can help figure that out as well.
You said UFO detectives. I said nerds. I think yours is a much better word you've used. Yeah. UFO detectives, but I'm
diligent UFO detectives.
I'm a nerd too, but I'm not that great. But in the bottom left corner in the green, you can see an exact geolocation of latitude, longitude. So it's going to be real quick for people to understand if that's accurate information. Seems like the platform would be accurate. We almost testified in 2 congressional hearings. We were going to show this and a lot more that you and I had been exposed to. We never got to do that testimony, and maybe by design. So our show is a great way to testify to the American public on what we think the best evidence is on UAP. And this is a good start. This video piece, people should take it, analyze it. I've never seen anything like it before, and I'm excited to put it out. I will say a couple other things that I keep my footnotes in my head here.
The source is legit. We know it's real. We've done our homework. We've talked to a lot of people who have seen it themselves on different sorts of platforms. It's real.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure what it is, but they describe it as UAP in their own records. It was not supposed to be made public. I think it should be made public. There's no danger to national security from sharing this stuff. It should have been out already, and we would have provided it to Congress and to the American public if we'd been given that opportunity. Now we're going to do it on our own.
Yeah. And I'll go a step further and say, besides its authenticity and them labeling it as a UAP, it is a highly discussed for years issue, this video, because it is really spectacularly interesting, especially the movement.
It makes me wonder if there are more images like this that maybe could come forward soon.
You know, I believe there are, because I'll go a little bit further, is that this is from an archive within our government that has a fuck ton. And I went on Twitter and I explained to everybody what a fuck ton is. It's a ton
I'm
with
going
a
to go
fuck.
to Grok and look that up to get the specifics.
Well, you should, now that you're using Grok all the time to fact check everything. So check it out, man. But I know there's a huge, I know that there's a huge archive of just UAP, and I know that it's all highly debated and used for analysis. And I really hope that good guys at Arrow, if there are any left,
Sure there are. Sure.
yeah, then I hope that they have access to that kind of stuff. They say they have access to everything. Last thing is, let's talk about shape historically. I came into the UFO world thinking flying saucers, Bob Lazar sports model. Now, I don't know the size of this thing, but it might be really big. I don't know. But it was so cool to see that historic, iconic shape, because after I got into UFOs, I realized, man, they come in all shapes and sizes around the world. What do you think about, the shape issue?
Yeah. Orbs are more common now. Spheres, triangles, we hear a lot about. It's nice to see a classic flying disc kind of a shape, if that's what it is.
Yeah. That movement freaks me out.
Yeah, if it had just been moving in one direction through some clouds, that's one thing. It'd still be interesting. But to go, that's a little harder to debunk.
Here's the deal. I don't know if it's a satellite, space-based platform like has been reported to us. I don't know if it's an airplane that filmed it. I am not qualified to know much about the films. I don't know what imagery platform captured it, but I know that the detectives online are going to figure that out and educate us.
We got lots of stuff floating around up there that you and I don't understand. Platforms of different kinds. Somebody will figure it out.
Yeah. I'm so curious about the size and those detectives you're talking about. I hope they can get a size, but man, I got to say, I'm excited for this footage. I'm excited for the public to see it. I'm excited to see what we learn from what people see that we don't.
There it is, UFO world. Knock yourselves out. Jump on in. Take a look. Tell us what you find out. And maybe Congress will ask some questions about this too.
Congress better look at this. I think it's a new beginning.